Hey folks, John from Complete Technology Solutions, your friend in less than lethal self-defense. I couldn't wait, guys. I couldn't wait. We gotta tear it down. Here we go. All right, guys, so if you watched the video last night on the Fireball PepperBall launcher from Guard Dog Security, we were pretty impressed with this thing. I did a lot of testing last night, and I did discover a couple things I want to let you know about. So going on down here, I want to show you. This trigger mechanism has got the double trigger safety on it. Because of how aggressive this trigger is, guys, it does, and I'm going to show you, you can see how it kind of punctures into the front of your finger there. So it is conducive to wanting to have a very good position to hold it. So you want to make sure that you're in good position, otherwise it kind of jabs a hole in your finger. Other than that, that's a structural thing. It's no big deal, and I'm sure you could probably get used to it. But we do want to tear this thing down for sure. One other thing. We had the guy, do you remember, we did a video a little while ago about the a box that came in from a viewer on the channel, actually, who goes by the name of Daedalus. And he is the one that sent us out all the Pac-Man ghosts and leather and the little leather wallet that looked like a cassette tape and all that. The guy is a master leather worksman. Well, guys, he sent me in an entire package of custom-made holsters. And I'm not talking about the junk that you see at the store. These are like alligator and snake, and they are awesome. The next video we drop, which is going to be early next week, we're going to go all through these holsters he's got, and he's going to have them available for you guys. So I cannot wait to show them to you. So let's get right to it, guys. So what I want to do is I'm going to do just like we did last time, guys. I'm going to get Stumpy in a position where it is angled down and directly over this launcher, so we can do this together. There we go. All right, and once again, I have no idea what we're going to find in here. I have no idea, actually very little about this thing. We're going to be doing this all together here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start normal. Let's pull this out because I don't know if we're going to need to take it out or not. There we go. And given the fact that I don't know where the ridges are on these pins, we're going to start this the exact same way we would on the HTP 50. So we're going to pull this pin. We're going to pull this pin, and we're going to pull that pin. And there are no other pins, so we're going to just kind of see what happens from there. So we're going to use our same punch, although I will tell you, these do look a little bit smaller, and I'm going to use the box to kind of give us a little platform here. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead. We're going to punch out this first pin. That punched out nicely. Yep. And let's go ahead and get a punch on this front pin right here. Oh, that just fell right out. Oh, good, guys. Look here. So we are correct. The ridges are on the left-hand side of the weapon. So that's what I wanted to know. And that just came right out, too. So let's go ahead and we'll punch this last back one out. There we go. And we'll remove them from the back. So all three pins, guys, and I'm going to pull them all out here, and then we're going to compare them. Hang on one second. All three pins are different sizes, that's for sure. Now, on this one, guys, the ridge appears to have been on the other side. So that is something interesting. One of them is one direction, and the other ones are the other direction. So we're going to have to take a look at that. But as you can see, all three pins are totally different. One's thicker. These two are the same. Actually, that one's a little longer and thicker than this one, and that one's smaller. So three pins. All right, and I can already see things starting to come apart here, so we're going to have to be real careful here. I have no idea what we're going to find. All right, so we're going to lift up on the slide slowly, and the slide just came right off, guys. Anybody else? Oh, guys, something I'm noticing right off the bat. Those are screwed in sights. So they're actually screwed in from the bottom on the front and the back of the sight. So that makes these interchangeable, which is actually pretty cool. That plastic feels like it's a little bit thinner than the HTP 50, but I don't see why that would not be able to take the same dye job. So we can turn that black, and you better believe we're going to. Okay, let's pull the weapon out of the handle here. There we go. Now, one thing I'm noticing right off the bat, guys, that is a little bit different. This is an entire molded piece. So instead of having the split at the case, we're going to split the entire thing, and the spring is captured inside here. So that could be a little bit challenging. We're going to see what that does here when we start getting into it. But it looks like we're going to have to pull 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 screws. And there is our valve block in the back. Now, you might notice, guys, that is a little bit different than our normal valve block. That has notches on the side instead of the little holes to open it up. Now, fortunately, I have a valve kit here that I've been using. This is that one I told you guys about that hopefully I'll have for sale here shortly that's actually hollowed out. But I think that given where these are positioned, we should still be able to use the same valve tool to open this up. And I want to open it right now so we can see what's in here. Yeah, this same valve tool works. In fact, I think it actually may work a little better. And I don't know if it's under a lot of pressure, but this is a little snug. So we're going to go slow and steady as we pull that out. Okay, and then that released the pressure. And as you can see, guys, there is no valve block in this. Are you guys hearing me? That means that if you remove the valve block out of this and you install that CO2 restrictor right there, this is an upgraded HTP 50 out of the box, which is really, really cool. Now, let's go ahead. I'm going to put this back together because, I mean, there's nothing in there. It is totally clear as a bell. You can see where they've got the little arms, and I'm hoping Stumpy's picking it up, to where you could have a blockage in there. Like if you've got countries that have got FPS limitations, you could actually do that. And from what I understand, this is a European gun, and this is the first iteration in America. And I confirmed that last night. It's actually from France. So they may or may not, I don't know yet, have some sort of a valve restriction in there. The other thing that I can't tell, this valve block, or excuse me, this CO2 chamber, where it's attached here is actually riveted together instead of using dimples. You can see that. And it may be threaded. I don't know for sure, but the construction on it is very, very solid. So, all right, let me put this valve back in here, and then I am going to crack it open. Hang on one second. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and let's pull these screws out and see what this thing looks like on the inside. Based on how much pressure this spring is under, I am really curious to see what I'm about to do here. Y'all might be seeing an explosion, in which case this video may turn out to be a comedy anyway, so we'll see. All right. And I'm just going to let this roll since this is the first time we've actually done this weapon together. None of these screws are particularly tight. In fact, they're not even like tight at all. They're just kind of there. All right. And they are long, though. Now, this is the one that anchors down through the body, and I can see by looking at this, and I'll show you up close here. Let me get these last 3 screws undone. There we go. And here. And one more. And let's see what we actually get here. Yeah, overall, guys, the construction of this is really nice. I mean, that's some pretty cool looking aluminum right here. All right, so just like on the TR50 or the HTP 50, if you take a look at this, you've got a center pin that's going to ride right in there. And you can see that that center pin, it's large. It's in that circle right there, and that's what's holding those 2 halves together with some tension. So what we're going to do is we're going to have to separate these 2 halves very, very slowly because we have no idea what we're about to get into. So let me go ahead. We're going to crack the front. Oh, guys, that actually just came right up. There was like hardly any tension on it at all. All right, so I'm going to go around slowly anyway, guys, because that was a little scary. Anything that comes up that easy is a little scary. There we go. All right, and I'm going to hold this follower because it looks like it's trying to come out. Hang on one second here. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to push this back and pin it down. There we go. So all I've done is I've pushed this back a little bit and held it in place. And up comes the side. There we go. Slow and steady. All right. Make sure we had all the screws out. I might have had one not quite all the way unscrewed. There we go. Okay. So, right off the bat, guys, you can see this is clearly, this is almost the exact same mechanism as the HTP 50, which makes sense, guys, because it's the way these are designed, they're so well designed that it would be the same mechanism. The detent on that is a trip. That is some sort of polypropylene. It's or almost rubbery on that detent. And this is probably part of the reason I was having the double ball feed. Let me see if I've got, I thought I had, yeah. So this is a 50 caliber PepperBall, and as you can see, it just slides right through. So what that means is that detent isn't quite tight enough to hold these smaller balls. That explains why we were getting a double and triple feed on that. The good news about that, and you can see that just goes right through. The good news about that is that these detents, there are people that are custom making these all over the place. In fact, we have one of the viewers from the last video that is sending me in one of his custom detents, and I'm willing to bet it's going to fit this. So we'll definitely use that and try it. Other than that, and that is the big primary difference that I see here. You've got the exact same follower. Now, getting this back together is going to be a challenge because that's going to have to sit like that, and I'm going to have to hold this in position right there. Other than that, everything else is exactly the same. You've got the exact same trigger release. You've got the same spring here, which is actually connected to the back of the trigger. And I like how that's pressurized because it's pressurized down against the frame instead of off of some little bar in the middle. So that is a little bit different. But the overall mechanism works the exact same way. So you can see that. So as you fire, one ball goes up in here into the detent. This blocks off the next round. It fires it. When you release it, a next ball comes up in there, and then you repeat the process over again, just like that. So that's actually a pretty cool little system right there. There's nothing astounding about this. This entire setup is exactly like the HTP 50 and the TR 50. The only difference being that it is fully upgraded from the factory. Now, there is something kind of interesting. Let me look at this and see if I'm seeing it. Yeah, the firing pin is a stock firing pin. That is the exact same length as an HTP 52. So really, with the exception of possibly HPA tapping this thing, you might, if you went with an 88 gram C02 cartridge running a little higher velocity, you might get a little more out of it. Or extending this tube back behind the weapon to add more pressure behind each round. These are going to be about maxed out of the box. Now, granted, that is not a problem. You saw how hard they fired out of the box. But there's not a lot of upgradability here aside from HPA tapping it or bottling it somehow, which I'm sure somebody out there will do. I have no question of that whatsoever. So, all right, I tell you what. Let's go ahead and I'm going to take this and put it back together here, guys. I'm going to try to do this as slow and easy as I can, and then we'll test it up. So I'm going to push this spring back up in here. You know, I want to look at one thing. These screws all look to be the exact same length, guys. Look at that. All right, so just to avoid tragedy in the future, I'm going to put these out here, and we're going to look at them all. All right, comparing them side by side. And if this is the case, this is one thing I have got to give them massive, major kudos for. I'll be darned. Look at that, guys. Every single one of those screws is the exact same length. Same thread pattern, same length, everything. Kudos to them on that one. I like that a lot. That means we don't have to screw with that while we're trying to get the rest of this mounted. All right, so we're going to put the follower through here. That's my thought. And then while we have the follower through here, hang on a second here. I'm going to try to hold that in place while I get that follower through. There we go. Now we're going to put the spring in. Compress it in and shove it into place. There we go. Yeah, there's no real super easy way to do that, guys. So you just kind of hold it and go. I'm going to move this follower to there, and now we're going to remount this two sides together. Okay, as you can see, actually that may be the easier way to do it, guys. Seat the back first, leave the top up. The follower sits in the channel then route your spring back in. That's the way to do it right there. That's the easy way. But make sure, and I want to show you guys this, that you don't do that. See the spring kind of poking out the front there? So be real careful about that. Lift it back up, get the rest of the spring inside, and close it down. Look at that. That's all there is to it. So even though that mechanism is a little different, like on the HTP50 where the spring just comes out the front, you don't have to contend with that. That's not that big of a deal when you're disassembling this. So if you do want to change this detent, which I would highly suggest, in fact, I may test that new detent that's coming in on this weapon based on how easy that was to disassemble. So it's going to be easy to do. That's the whole idea. Is it's not going to be a very challenging installation because it comes right apart. You guys see that I didn't have to, wedge it like on a TR50 where you're dealing with a great deal of pressure. I didn't have to go, real crazy on holding pieces down like we did on the Snow Peak. That one was fun because when you disassembled it, you had to hold the trigger in place. Otherwise, everything kind of went flying on you. So overall, it's a pretty decent design. But talk about an easy teardown, guys. So yeah, I can definitely see how there's a lot of easy upgradability on this. And I know there are going to be some of my YouTube friends out there in our community that are going to grossly overpower this baby. And I respect that. A lot of people watch my channel and they ask me about that. And that's never been my goal. My goal, turning a non-lethal weapon lethal, it kind of defeats the purpose of having a non-lethal weapon. So on my channel, you will never see me trying to crank out, 50, 60, 70 joules out of one of these because there's just no need. Not to mention, I can't see trying to conceal a bottle and a tube and, all that. Just seems kind of silly. But, hey, to each their own, and there are a lot of really good YouTubers out there that's what they're doing, is modding these out, trying to squeeze out every ounce of power that they possibly can, short of having them blow up in their hand. So, yeah. All right, getting in the last two screws here. There we go. And one more. And there we go. Now, just like last time, guys, once you get everything screwed back down, test your trigger, test your feed mechanism, make sure everything is still moving freely like it should be. And it is. That's good. Everything's advancing like normal. By the way, guys, do you remember when this thing was, I told you every now and then on that first round it was clipping up there? Watch what happens when I pull this trigger. So do you see that movement? So if this is sitting here, which is right on the outside of having that completely full, and you pull this because there's balls right there and it pushes this up, it's going to cause it to lock. That illustrates the point that I was talking about last night. So 6 rounds in this is going to put that feeder right about there and could cause that problem. 5 rounds would put the feeder there and you would never have a problem with feed. So I'm pretty sure the easiest solution on that would be to file this down, the angle right here, the catch, just to file it down to like a slip, or like a slip, like to like an angle. So in other words, when you were loading, you'd have to hold this, but there'd be no chance of it locking in place. So even if it hit it, it would still slide back down. So that would be the easiest solution to take care of that problem. But all right, let's go ahead and get her back together here. I got to tell you, the disassembly on this is pretty darn simple, guys. It really, really is. And we'll get our slide on here. Here we go. And we got our slide on. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our pins back in from this side. So even though one of them had the ridges on the other side, we're going to do them both from this side, guys, because I kind of like keeping it universal here. So, all right. There we go. Kind of didn't want to go through there. Had to make sure I was hitting the right notch there. There we go. And in with that one. That one in nicely. Yeah, once it finally lined up with those notches, it went in nicely. So, and small one up front. Now for that one, guys, you notice I had to pinch down on this to make sure that it was tight. And we're going to go ahead and secure these in and flush them up like that. Flush it up and flush it up like that. All right, and we are reassembled. So guys, I gotta say, as far as the disassembly on this launcher goes, that is one of the easiest disassemblies I've ever seen. You saw the internal workings. It's almost exactly like the HTP 50. Duh, we kind of expected that. You saw how easily everything went back together again. No big deal. The carrier spring having to be attached was no big deal. As long as you put the back down first and then opened up the front, you could slide it right in without a problem. We also identified where the issue was lying in this feeding mechanism. So in a future iteration of this weapon, if they had just either moved that notch up a tiny bit or filed that down to where it was an angle, that would have been the optimal option. Because obviously if you're reloading this thing, you can hold this to reload that. That's not a big deal. And you're not going to reload it in a combat situation. Now, what's cool is if that was filed down correctly, and I may actually do that to this weapon. I'm going to order about 10 more of these. But if that was like that, it would be perfect for the speed loader. And on that note, the speed loader, and I had one in here, which I no longer have, does not fit the Picatinny rail. These are a little bit wider, so I'm going to have to redesign the speed loader a little bit, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't use it on this weapon too. And in that configuration where it wouldn't stick, it'd be just like that. I mean, pull it up and dump it. So pretty cool, right? All right, guys, so don't forget, we're going to take a look at those holsters that came in from data. That's our next video, and then wait till you see what's coming next, guys. It never stops. I love this community. Have a great weekend, guys. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.